Good morning, everyone. Today is January 13th, 2021, a beautiful Wednesday. As always, I'd like to thank everyone in the audience on ClubHouse live listening, and to the people watching on the different social media platforms, whether YouTube or Instagram, later on in the day. All right, so today I just want to talk about two things, but really three things. If you didn't already see in the description, one, I want to talk about why I'm betting on ClubHouse and apps that are like this, that are taking this approach to how social media works. And two, I'm just going to give a little stock trading 101 lesson, because this is a finance morning show. So I felt there's no reason why not to kick it off like this, all right? And like I said, three things really. I want to do a tiny continuation of what I said yesterday in episode 2. If you haven't seen that, you can go watch it on YouTube. Just type in the Duron and it should pop right up. But what I talked about yesterday in episode 2 was why social media, or how social media rather, has changed the way our society works. And like I said, just a tiny continuation of that. To talk about why I'm betting on ClubHouse, I have to tell you why I'm losing hope in the way that social media is working now. So as of right now, I mean, most of you already know this, but the way the social media works now is really through two main avenues, through likes and through view counts. If you're on, or if Twitter, same thing, likes or retweets, but it's essentially the same thing with a different name. If you're on Snapchat, that's view count. If you're on Instagram, if it's a video, that's view count or likes. It's neither here nor there. Same thing with Facebook, likes or view counts. YouTube, view counts. So I think that method of social media is dwindling slowly but surely. Why? Because of the awareness that people have of the side effects of that. When the like button was first introduced in 2010, I learned this from the documentary The Social Dilemma by Tristan Harris. The creator of the like button on Facebook talked about this directly on there. He said they had no idea that when they created it, they were literally going to shape a whole generation of not only adults but children growing up, teenagers. People thrive for these likes or these view counts, and they shape their whole identity based off it. If they post one picture and get 50 likes, and then they post, let's say they're wearing orange, and they get 50 likes, and then they go and are wearing yellow and they only get 20 likes, they feel like, oh, well, people clearly like me more when I'm wearing orange. I have to do things like this more often. Same thing with view counts. If you're doing a swimsuit video or something and you get 300 likes, and then you do a regular video of just you in the backyard or something and you get 100 likes or 100 views, everyone always goes, well, I want more views, I want more likes, I got to do what gets me there, and that's these bathing suits. People shape their whole identity around that. And we've seen the numbers that have come out over the last 10 to 15 years, and it's astounding. Depression has only gone up. Suicide has only gone up, especially in the ages of around 12 to 25. Happiness has only gone down. There's a metric where they look at the happiness of countries, and happiness has gone down where there's regulations on social media, and only going happiness is going up where there's regulations on social media, but it's only going down where there are no regulations. It's only going down. So, like I said, that was just going to be a little backstory. I talked a lot about social media yesterday, so if you want to watch that, that's on episode 2. But I want to really talk about why I'm betting on ClubHouse and apps that are like it. And for you black and white people or numbers-based analytical people, I'll just talk about the numbers, and then I'll talk about my emotions towards it and why I have a gut feeling that this is going to work. So just looking at basically off the numbers, if you go to right now, this app is only on iPhone, on the App Store, the Apple App Store. So if you go directly to the App Store, and I'm going to do this on my phone as I talk you through it. If you go directly on the App Store and search up ClubHouse, okay, you click the picture, and you see it says on the chart, it was actually number 11 when I was doing my research for this yesterday, but right now it's number 9 on social networking. So if you look at the numbers, number 1 and 2 are Signal and Telegram. Why that's relevant is, if you haven't seen Facebook, Facebook owns WhatsApp and they also own Instagram. Facebook is changing its terms and agreements for WhatsApp, and they are making you give different permissions to allow them to look into I believe it's your different friends and different messages and different photos. They're changing their terms and agreements. Whereas before, WhatsApp was known for its security, it's becoming less secure, and people feel like that's a breach. So huge celebrities like Elon Musk, Elon Musk actually specifically, he tweeted, go download Signal. And now Signal is number 1 on the social networking chart on the App Store. And a little tiny funny story, because like I said, this is a finance podcast. People actually got confused with Signal. So when Elon, and I'll read the tweet right to you. It says, the power of @Elon Musk. Last Thursday, Elon sent out a tweet saying, use Signal. He was referring to, quote unquote, Signal, the encrypted messaging platform. However, investors confused Signal Advance for Signal, and shares of Signal Advanced soared from 60 cents before Elon's tweet to $70.85 on Monday. From 60 cents to $70.85 on Monday. So if you would have put, I'm just going to use a dollar because that'll be easy math. If you would have put $1 in for Signal Advance, you would have been able to buy 1 share at 60 cents. And by Monday, if you did that on Thursday, you bought $1 of it. By next Thursday, you would have had $70.85. From $1 to 70. So you can scale that however you want. If you would have bought $10, you would have had $700. If you would have bought $100, you would have had $7,000. If you would have bought $1,000 worth, you would have had $70,000 worth just in 1 week. So that's the power of Elon Musk. And why do I say that? That's all relevant because now, if you look at the social networking chart or on the App Store, it says top charts. Number 1 is Signal. So we know that's somewhat of a fluke. People are downloading it. That's not wrong, but it's not like this app has had years of sustainability or years of growth. This is kind of like a fluke. Same thing with Telegram Messenger. People are moving from WhatsApp to more secure platforms. So I don't think that these two are going to be lasting. I think Facebook might change back its terms, and then people are going to jump right back to it. So number 3 is Facebook, which is very obvious. It's the biggest social media platform in the world. It has 2 billion users. That's more than any country anywhere. And number 4 is Messenger, which is owned by Facebook. And number 6 is WhatsApp Messenger, which is also owned by Facebook. So then let's take those ones out. I'm going to take out number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 6, as I just explained. So now we have at 1 would be MeWe Network. Number 2 would be Discord. Number 3 would be Google Duo, which is the FaceTime for Android users. Sorry, Android users. So we can take that one out too. So number 1 would be MeWe Network. Number 2 would be Discord. And then number 3, you would have ClubHouse. So ClubHouse is, like I said, and that's very biased to me, obviously. I'm clearly using the numbers for my own vantage point or for my advantage. But I think in this specific example, it works because of what I just told you. So ClubHouse is number 3 on the social networking chart, and then an app that's made exactly like it called CloutHub, which is also for social networking, and it's an audio social media network, is right after. It would be number 4. And Discord, actually, I didn't even consider that. Discord is more so for gamers, people that are Twitch users, or people that that are on big gaming networks. They use Discord because that's a real easy way to chat. It has a lot of like-minded people in there, but it's also audio based too. It's not only audio, but it's very chat and audio based. So if you want to use that as well, like I said, Discord would be number one. So Discord is or MeWe Network is number one. Excuse me. MeWe Network is, it's kind of like Facebook before ads, really. And I don't see how this app will last because it's kind of like a play on words. It's me and then we. So they just put it together, the MeWe Network. I don't see how this app will last because I don't see what their monetization plan will be, because their whole gimmick, if you want to call it that, is there's not ever going to be any ads. There's no direct targeting ads. And they said they're never going to do that. What I mean by that is, let's say they get 1 million downloads and they have 100,000 people on their app concurrently every day. Those are good numbers. So normally what happens is Coca-Cola or NBC or ABC, whoever, will say, hey, can we put an ad on your social media platform? You have 100,000 eyes on your social media platform. We'll pay you 50 cents per click. MeWe saying that they're not doing any ads. So how do they monetize? How does their app last? Unless they are rich or they're going to be backed by a huge venture capitalist, which I will explain what all that means in the Stock 101 trading or lesson. How are they going to last? You need to have deep pockets to keep up a social media network that's getting tons of downloads and has tons of people on it, because you need the server space. We take for granted just being on Instagram or Facebook or Snapchat or whatever you like to be on, because it doesn't really go down much. But there are thousands, if not tens of thousands, and in Google's case, if not hundreds of thousands, of servers that allow us to just get on these networks. There's people that are on Google and YouTube and Google Duo all at the same time. Same thing with Apple. There's people that are on Safari and FaceTime and messaging, and they have to store all that information somewhere. So there's tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of servers out there, and that needs to be paid for somehow. So that's why I wouldn't put my money on MeWe, but it is number 5. People are downloading it. And it's also, from what I'm seeing in the comments, it's kind of like a right-wing thing. But I don't think that has anything to do with their popularity. So just to go through it all again, because I know that was a lot of information to process at once, so I'm going to try to break it down very simple and very kind of like explain to me like I'm 5 years old. That's how people say it on social media. Explain like I was 5. So if I was to explain to someone like that they were 5, you have to take out a lot of the anomalies that are on here, or the people that don't have to grow anymore and they might have reached their max limit. So take out number 1, Signal, because of Elon Musk. Number 2, Telegram, because of Elon Musk. Number 3, Facebook, because they don't really have any more room to grow. They've really plateaued. Number 4 is Messenger, which is owned by Facebook. Number 5 is the MeWe network, which as of this point right now, I don't see how they have a monetization method or a way to make money. WhatsApp is number 6, which is owned by Facebook. Number 7 is Discord, which not exactly, but in an essence is like ClubHouse. Number 8 is Google Duo, which, like I said, is the FaceTime for Android users. And then number 9 is ClubHouse. So number 7, number 10 is CloutHub, social networking. So number 7, Discord. Number 9, ClubHouse, and number 10, CloutHub. If we move those ones up, taking out the anomalies, those are number 1, 2, and 3 on the social networking app chart on the Apple App Store. So why am I betting my money on ClubHouse? For this app to have reached the masses that it has in such a short amount of time and only be on one store, the App Store, it's not on Android phones yet, that is quite a feat. So like I said, that was more so for the analytical people, but let's go more towards the emotional side of it now. For me, like I said in the beginning, because of the awareness that more so our youth, honestly, and when I say youth, I mean ages 12 to 25, 27. That's a big range. People normally like to do a 12-year gap, so you can say 12 to 24 if you want. I think the youth is really shaping up and really starting to realize the damages that the current way social media is done has had on our society. So there needs to be some type of change. And at the same time, there's also been talks of regulating how social media is used. Last year, or maybe now it will be 2 years ago, in 2019, there was a proposal by a U.S. senator that said that maybe we should take the like button out of Instagram. And that actually got a lot of traction. Instagram has claimed that they're going to play around with that and see how it works. They've even made statements in saying that they'll give their users the ability to turn that off. Some may keep it on, some can turn it off or turn it on, depending on what they want to do for specific pictures. Well, I don't think that fixes the main problem. So something's got to give. And when technology reaches that point, when something's got to give, there's always a new player that comes into town. If you want to look this term up, it's called disruptive technology. There needs to be some type of disruption inside the market. So I feel as though that disruption is going to come from, if not ClubHouse itself, one of the apps that are like it. And that could be Clout Hub, that could be ClubHouse, it could be someone that we haven't even heard of yet. And it'll go one of two ways. Either these platforms will, or I guess really one of three ways, but I'm going to talk about the one of two ways is in assuming that these apps really work the way that I'm proposing they will, and they get the traction that I'm proposing they will. If they really do keep that sustainability and hit the projections that I'm saying they will, then it'll go one of two ways. One, they will grow and grow and grow, and they'll get backed by some venture capitalists. They will get some funding, and they'll be able to keep their platform, and it'll continue to grow, and they'll become a household name. People will start to say, follow me on ClubHouse. People will start to say, you can listen to my podcast on ClubHouse. You can network with me on there. And I think that it will become a staple. Whether, like I said, that be ClubHouse or Clout Hub, they're interchangeable right now at this point. That's the one way. Or number two, as we've seen in the past, it happened with YouTube, it happened with Instagram, it happens every day. We will see that they'll get bought out by a bigger company. Same thing happened with LinkedIn. And I say that to say, I purposely brought LinkedIn in there because that's who I think would have the biggest advantage to buying a platform like this would be Microsoft. Microsoft owns LinkedIn, and that's, if you don't know, that's one of the biggest networking websites out there. You can get a job on LinkedIn just by following the right people. If you follow, like I went to the New Jersey Institute of Technology, for example. If I followed one of my professors who worked at Coca-Cola, and he is still good friends with one of the senior VPs of marketing or of finance or of whatever, of accounting, and I just said, hey, professor, I see that you know this person. Do you think you could put in a good word for me? And then they hit me up, and then he's like, yeah, sure, you were a good student. I've seen people get tons of jobs like that. So a networking platform that already has that pool, like Microsoft and LinkedIn do, changing not changing, updating and upgrading the way that they do networking would be a huge addition to their platforms. If you to give you just a couple more examples, if you haven't seen on ClubHouse, there have been huge rooms with celebrities like P. Diddy and Meek Mill and 21 Savage, and they all get into one room and they just try to drop what people have been calling gems, like whether it be on knowledge or business or managing money. It could be about trying to manage their celebrity and their name and public relations. They go into rooms like that and just give out tips. So that's why I'm betting my money on not literally, I mean figuratively, because right now there's no way that I know of, there's no way that you can put actual money into ClubHouse unless you're like a venture capitalist and you buy percentages of their company. Like if you say, hey, I'll give you 10 mil for 5% or something like that. I don't think I can donate or try to buy $100, $200 worth of stock yet. They're not a public company. And my last reason for betting on them before I talk about the stock lesson and how you should go about projecting these companies like how I am right now and what research I do. The last reason that I would give is the scalability of these platforms in these rooms, mixed with the fact of this pandemic. And this pandemic has given a rise to a lot of new business techniques and a lot of businesses in general, like Zoom. Zoom is now a household name out of nowhere. It just only took a year. So now that we are in this pandemic and we've actually got accustomed to this life at home, things like Zoom meetings, things like Zoom concerts, virtual meetings, whether it be for social gatherings or professional, are the norm. And I think virtual concerts and all virtual, if you want to call it entertainment, virtual entertainment is going to be the new mainstream very, very, very soon because it's so scalable. And what do I mean by that? So let's say, and I'm going to give a real example that ClubHouse used after I used this theoretical example. Let's just use a big artist like Drake. And if you know me, then you know I love Drake. People are probably going to be laughing at this video when they watch this. So let's use a theoretical example like Drake. If he went and sold out Madison Square Garden, which I'm not positive how many seats they have, so let's just use a number like 30,000 or 40,000. I'm not sure if that's exactly how many they have, but let's say Drake sold out Madison Square Garden for, on average, a ticket price of $150 or $200. So he might make off that like $150,000 is what I was going to say. He might make $150,000 off that after percentages and things like that. He might make $150,000 a concert, and that's because he had to talk to the venue people and he had to get the stage managers and the lights done, and there had to be. My aunt just texted me and said 20,789 capacity. Thanks, Auntie. So let's just round it up to 21,000 capacity. He might make 125 off that 150. There's normally a flat rate for performers. Drake did a concert in Las Vegas and got 350. He's done concerts in Los Angeles, got 250. But those are outside venues where you can house more people. So let's just say an inside venue like MSG, which is obviously one of the staple names anywhere around the world. He might make 150 off that, which is great for anyone, but because there's so many players in it, he has to talk to his manager and they have to schedule it, and there needs to be, and let's say they're selling tickets off of Ticketmaster, and you know what I mean? Like there's so many different platforms. Now let's take that same scenario. Drake wants to do a concert, right? But this time he does it virtual, and it's at his house, his mansion, There's no pyrotechnics, there's nothing. He does it right on the basketball court that he made inside his house. And he says, I'm going to do it virtually, and I'm going to do it on Zoom, and it's only $20 a ticket. And let's say 1 million people get on that live thing, which is not unfathomable, which is not something that sounds unheard of, because if you follow the Instagram channel Versus, every time they post a video or do a live, whether it was with Snoop Dogg versus DMX, or whether it was with Brandy versus Monica, they have millions of viewers each time. I believe the highest one they got was 2 million, or if not 1.9 million with Monica and Brandy. So it's not unheard of. I'm not making up fake numbers. So imagine if 1 million people went to that virtual Drake concert and they were only $20 tickets. That's $20 million. And Zoom is free, first of all. Zoom is free, and the concert is at his house at his basketball court. And let's just say Zoom wants to take a 1% hit, like, because you're using our platform, we need 1%, 2%, whatever it is. He's still making millions of dollars versus the 150,000 example that we just used, right? So that's just a theoretical example of why I think this virtual entertainment will be mainstream, if not this year, then next. I'll give you a real example, and you can Google this to fact check me. If you want to look up ClubHouse Lion King or Lion King ClubHouse Live, there were some people that got together and did a live rendition of The Lion King on ClubHouse, December 25th, and I believe there were 4,000 people they had, if not more, in their live. And they didn't broadcast and say, this is what we're doing. People just saw on the ClubHouse app, hey, I see that this is going on, and they just watched it. There was no promotion or anything like that, and they got 4,000 people on there. I don't know if my viewers or my live listeners have been to a Broadway concert. I don't believe there's 4,000 seats in there. So if you scale that up and you promote it, something like Hamilton, and Hamilton was sold out everywhere. So you say, hey, we're going to do a live rendition of Hamilton, and they promote it. It's January 13th right now. They say we're going to do it on March 4th. And they give people time to mark their calendars and do it. And they get 60,000, 70,000 people on there, if not more. And they charge $50 rather than the 500 people that can go, or 1,000 people that can go to Broadway for a $100 ticket, $150 ticket. I know Hamilton tickets were more than that at one point, but I'm just giving an average. The scalability and the affordability of these platforms is the biggest reason why I think that they're going to be next, honestly. So that's a great transition into the stock market and the stock trading 101 lesson, because obviously I'm spewing off all these numbers and I've done like research on this. So how did I learn about doing all these things, whether it be with stocks or non-public companies, private companies? Let's just get into the basics, honestly. So with stock trading in general, why is it even called the stock market? Well, that's because there's different types of markets. There's the foreign exchange market, there's the bonds market, and there's the stock market, which is for public companies. And a public company is one that allows the public to invest their money in it rather than just private venture capitalists or private entities. So someone that's rich like Elon Musk, or someone that's rich like Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, for example, they're one person, they're a private entity with tons of money. They might be able to invest in a private company. But a public company, one that has an IPO, they make themselves available to the public, and you can go on a stock brokerage, whether it be Robinhood, whether it be TD Ameritrade, and you can put money into that company. So that's why it's called the stock market, because there's different types of markets, and stocks are for public companies only. So how do you know what stock brokerage to go to or go with? Right now, I recommend Robinhood to everyone because it's free and it's very easy to use. It's right on the App Store or the Google Play Store. You can download Robinhood, and it's very user-friendly. There's no trade commissions. Like if you go to something like TD Ameritrade or E-Trade, for every time you want to put in $100 into Facebook or something, you might have to pay $6.95. Robinhood isn't like that. So that's what I recommend. But in general, that is what you want to look for. Even if you don't want to take my recommendation, you just want to make sure that you're getting the most for your money. So whether you decide to use E-Trade or TD Ameritrade or Chase or whomever, you just want to make sure that they're not ripping you off like anything else. So next would be what stocks or what exactly should you be looking for? In general, you obviously want to look for stocks that are going up and doing well. And it also depends on what type of investment that you would like to make. If you want to make a long-term investment, you might want to, and long-term investments are obviously slower, which is not a bad thing. It's still better than putting it into a savings account or nowhere at all, keeping your money under the mattress. But there's also short-term investments, which might be riskier, but they have a higher return. So if you're obviously looking for a long-term investment, you want to look for something that's been growing for a long time, whether like a GM or General Electric or something that's been on the market for a long time. Even these aren't considered long-term stocks because they haven't been companies for a while, but even like a Facebook or a Google, those aren't going anywhere. So those are long-term stocks. Amazon, something like Johnson & Johnson, stocks like that are not going anywhere. So they're long-term investments. You might get an 8% return on your investment over a year's time. So to even explain what that means, if you were to go and put I'll use $100 because that makes the math easier. If you were to go and put most of your money in a savings account, in general, they will give you, if it's a great savings account, they might give you a 1.5% return on your investment, maybe 1%. So if you were to go put $100 in at the end of a one year investment, they'll give you one more dollar, and now you have $101. People look at that and say that's not that good, but if you scale it over 30 years, that $100 might turn into 30 years. There's equations where you can do this, but we're not going to get into that today. But let's just say that $100 turns into about $1,000 or $1,200 over 30 years. That was money if you would have left it under your mattress for 30 years, would have just been $100. So I'm not saying that savings accounts are bad in any type of way, but if you're looking for a higher return on your money, then savings account aren't the most lucrative way. So that's how the percentages work, 1% versus the 8s and the 10s and 30%. So on average, the stock market, a good stock like Facebook or Netflix or Amazon, they have about anywhere between 6 to 10% return on investment every year. A great return on investment is something like Netflix over a 5-year span grew 330%. So that means if you put your $100 in 2016, you would have flipped that 3 times over. Now you'd have $400. So that's the type of things you want to look into, and those ones aren't hard to find. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to go and search for if Netflix is a good stock. If you pay $15.99 or whatever the price is, $11.99 is for Netflix every month, and if you're paying for it, then it's probably a good stock to buy. Or Hulu. Hulu's owned by Disney. Disney owns Disney. Out of the top 10 grossing movies of all time, Disney has 7 of them. Disney's not going anywhere. That's if you buy Disney Plus and Hulu, it's probably a great buy for a stock as well. If you're going to pay them $10.99 a month, you should probably go and put $50 in there. So at the end of the year, you get that $15.99 back in your investment money. So that's in general how to look for stock investments, but it does go deeper than that. So there are several strategies for stock trading. You can, like I said, there's short term, there's long term, but there's also different methods. They have stock options, which for new people, for new users, would most likely be short-term investments to try to get more for your money. Short-term meaning anything that's under a year is short-term. It may not seem that way. We don't really have tomorrow planned out, let alone next year. But anything that's under a year is a short-term investment. So for an option, the way an option works in general is you can either choose whether a stock is going to go up or whether it's going to go down. So the difference between an option and buying a regular, just buying the stock, buying one. Why am I forgetting the name? Just buying the stock. You know what I mean? Like buying 1, 2 share. That's the word. Buying 1 or 2 shares of the stock. The difference between buying a share and trading an option is a little different. If you just buy a share, you're just waiting for the stock to go up. If it goes down, you lose money. If it goes up, you get money. So an option, you actually have the choice. That's why it's called that. You have the option. You can buy what they call a put, which means I think it's going to go down. And you can say, okay, for example, there's been all this regulation on gasoline cars and petroleum. So I think ExxonMobil is going to go down. And today's January 13th, 2021, you have to choose a date for when your option is going to expire. So you can say, okay, I think that some form of regulation is going to be passed in March, for example. So I think that I'm going to make my option for April, my put option for April. I think that I'm going to use a generic number. Let's say ExxonMobil's at $100 right now. You say, okay, I think that it's going to go to 90 because of all these regulations. You put in your put option for that to go down, and the more that it goes down, the more money you get. So there's also an opposite. You can say, well, because of these regulations, companies are going to be more inclined to have renewable energy resources. I'm going to go look into a company like Tesla, who they have electric vehicles and they make solar panels. I'm going to use an option that says this is going to go up. And let's say it's at $100, which it's not. So it's really like at $800 right now. You say, I think this is going to go to $850. Now, the way that the pricing works for this is if something seems a little obvious, then it's going to be really expensive. However, the returns are really good. Because the way that it works is they make you buy essentially the right to buy. That's how they word it. You have the right to buy these 100 shares of this company. So for Tesla, as example, they might say, since they know regulations are being passed and Tesla is a very volatile stock, it goes up and down like daily. They might say, okay, if it's at 800 right now and you predict that it's going to go to 850, we'll give you a $10 stock price on this, which you would say like, oh, that sounds great. But no, they want you to buy 100. You have to buy 100 of those. So it's 100 times 10, which is 1,000. So it makes you think twice. You're like, oh, I don't know about that. But like I said, the returns are a lot greater. However, the bigger the risk versus reward factor, if it goes down instead of going up, if you predict it to go up, you'll get a lot of money. But if you predict it to go down, you will lose your or rather, if it goes down after you predict it to go up, you will lose your $1,000 quick, very quickly. So, just as a general statement, like I said, this is just a little stock 101 lesson. There's many different options on stock trading. So you can buy a share of a company. You can look at options. There's different ways to research stocks. And something that's been on the market lately, which is not really related to stocks, so I don't want to jump too heavily into it, but cryptocurrencies as well are on the rise, whether it be Bitcoin or Ripple. They have tons of cryptocurrencies. They have one called Dogecoin, which is, if you go look up DOGE coin and you'll get a good chuckle. Dogecoin. So there's several. The thing with cryptocurrencies is they're very volatile, but because of that, those are more so short-term investments. I don't know if people have seen, but over the last year, Bitcoin, or really over the last 4 months, Bitcoin's going up about 500%. So if you just would have bought $100 worth of Bitcoin 6 months ago, you would have made $500 off that, essentially giving you $600 now. But like I said, because of the volatility, Bitcoin goes up and down very, very, very rapidly. It could go up 500% and then down 700% the next day. Right now, Bitcoin sits at $34,000. Tomorrow, it could be 15, and then the next day, it could be 26. So Bitcoin is a very short-term investment that you need to really be like staring at and waiting. But that's something else entirely. This is just a 101 lesson. I don't want to get people too confused. I'll do a cryptocurrency lesson on a different day. So just to recap just a little bit, you need to first if you want to make like bullet points, this is what a person will need to do if they themselves want to get into stock trading. First and foremost, you need to find out what type of investment you're looking for. If you're looking for a long-term investment, that means you're not going to touch your money for at least 2 to 5 years minimum. Not maximum, minimum. You're not going to touch the money. You're not going to look at the stock. You're not even going to worry about the stock. It doesn't matter if it goes up, down, or indifferent. You trust it, and you're not going to touch it. The best example of that would be Tesla. People that bought Tesla in, I'll just use 2012 because that's 8 years. That's a nice long-term investment. People that bought Tesla in 2012, they've probably had a few heart attacks by now because their money goes up, and then their money goes way down. And their money goes way up, and then it goes way down. Over the last 8 years, I'd say, I know, Tesla was about, let's just call it $50 around 2012, if not 60. And then it sat around 120 for a little bit after that, going into 2013, 2014. And then it shot up, and they actually had to reduce the stock price. They did what's called like a stock sale, and I don't want to confuse people with that, but basically they will give you more stock for the same amount of money. So if you have $100 worth if you have one share of stock and that's $100, they'll give you 4 shares that are $25. Does that make sense? So now 25 times 4 is 100. 1 times 100 is 100. It's the same thing, but they give more shares and stuff like that. It helps them reduce the price. So Tesla had boomed up to $1,000, and they needed to go down, so they went back down to 4. And I mean, it's about to hit 1,000 again. It's at 800 right now. They just did that 3 months ago. So I use Tesla because Tesla and Netflix and what's another good company? If you want to look at a really, really long-term investment, Amazon. Amazon in 1994 was worth $1, and today it's worth $3,000. So if you just would have put $100 in back then, you would have millions now. So in general, that is that's what you want to find out first. Do you want to do a long-term investment, which is minimum 2 to 5 years, or do you want to do a short-term investment, which is anywhere between 1 to 2 years? A good short-term investment might be something like, what's a good short-term investment? Maybe something like if there's a big craze, like for example, I'm just going to use silly putty or something, or those were silly bands or something. There were these rubber bands or fidget spinners. Fidget spinners were huge for what, maybe a year, and now you don't hear about them. That's a good short-term investment if you can find a company that is making the plastics for that, or solely making those, and they're a public company. You want to invest in that, and that's a short-term investment. As soon as you look at the trends that are good, that's a good platform to use as well. You can look up all Google search words that are being looked at, and you can invest off that. That's a good short-term strategy. You can say, okay, recently people are looking up fidget spinners a lot, and I haven't heard much about them, but people are really, really looking into it, so I'm going to invest in that. So long-term, like I said, 2 to 5 years, you just want to look at the companies you use. If you always wear Polo Ralph Lauren or you always wear Louis Vuitton, go invest your money in that. If you are watching Netflix consistently, if you have solely used Microsoft since you were 12, just go buy Microsoft stock. Those are great long-term investments without having to do much thinking. Short-term investments, if you want to look into making some quote-unquote quick money, but you still have to keep your eye on it, you can look up some Google search trends. That would be my first bullet point. Number 2 is you have to look up and figure out which stock brokerage works for you. Like I said, I recommend Robinhood right now. There's no fees. There's no hidden anything. It's free. You just invest and you leave. That's it. I will say, because some things are too good to be true. What I will say is Robinhood is not really good with the turnaround time as far as taking your money out. So with investing, you don't want to have to need that money right away. Don't put your rent into Robinhood, because you won't get it back. Not that you won't get it back, but not in a swift time. If let's say you put today's January 13th, you put your money in there, it's going to you'll be able to use it immediately, but it won't be in the platform for 5 days. And then you say, and you can't even take it out until it's touched the platform. So let's say you invest in Apple today and you want to take it out tomorrow. They're going to say you can sell this and you still use the money, but you can use the money on our platform, but you can't withdraw it because it's technically your money's not in here yet. We're just giving you a credit. And let's just say after 5 days, the 18th, your money's finally in there, then you withdraw it. You got to wait another 5 days for it to go back to your account. So it's the 13th, and you don't even have your money back until the 23rd. So don't put your rent on Robinhood. So in general, you just have to find which stock exchange or stock brokerage works for you. And for example, I don't know, but E-Trade may not do that. They may have $6.95 for trades for each trade you do, but you might be able to get your money back immediately. So you have to look at the pros and cons of what works for you and go from there. That would be bullet point number 2. And bullet point number 3 is patience. Patience. If you're going to do a long-term stock or even a short-term stock, you just have to really believe in it. And don't, what they call, Warren Buffett has a really, really good quote. And if you don't know who Warren Buffett is, he's the big one of if not the biggest stock trader in the world. He owns Berkshire Hathaway. He said you have to have stone hands even when there's blood in the streets. You have to have stone hands. So, in general, that is my stock 101 lesson. I hope that I gave you some tips and tricks that I used. So in general, just to do a little recap before we get to our Q&A section, in the beginning of the episode, I talked about why I think the way that social media is used currently is diminishing. The likes and the view count aspect of it is really being recognized as harmful, for lack of a better term. It is what it is. It's harmful, and the youth, like I said earlier, 12 to 24, are really realizing that the way that social media has been used currently is not the way of the future. It's caused a lot of depression, a lot of suicide, and a lot of unhappiness. So I believe platforms like ClubHouse and like CloutHub are going to be next, whether it's a sale of their company through Microsoft or others. I believe that Microsoft would have the biggest advantage of buying one of these platforms because they already have LinkedIn, which is a social networking platform, and there's actually formulas that you learn when you go to school for this, and they are obviously Microsoft knows this as well. You can do a formula to figure out whether it's advantageous for you to try to make a platform like this through LinkedIn, like LinkedIn might come out with their own audio platform, or whether it's just better to buy one and integrate it yourself. If you can buy one and take the fans as well, take the users, it's most times, not all times, it benefits you more to do it that way. So we moved on from there to a little stock one-on-one lesson, which I just gave you the bullet points that I would use. And in conclusion, that really wraps up episode 2. I'll take any questions now. Like I always say, this is being recorded, so if you want to introduce yourself, you are more than welcome. But if you want to stay anonymous, you don't have to. Go ahead.
Good morning. My question is for people who haven't invested in stocks before, so and they may be a little nervous in putting up too much money or more than they're willing to offer right now. So say for instance they wanted to invest in Tesla. Right now I see that their share price is $849. So do you suggest for beginners to purchase a whole share, so purchase a whole share worth the $849, or is it okay for them to put a little less into the stock in the beginning? So I'm just asking for your advice, and what do you suggest for beginners who are looking to purchase a stock?
That's a great question. I'm actually really glad you asked that. In as a general statement, I would say that if you can afford to, then yes, you should buy a whole share if you believe in the company. That's 100% always. However, if you can't, then there's still a lot of advantages or a lot of benefits in not buying a whole share. However, there's not a lot of platforms that allow you to buy a whole share. Right now, the only one that I can think of off my head, and I will admit I'm a little ignorant to this, is Cash App. I don't know of any other platforms that are allowing you to buy half a share or 0.25 of a share. I know Robinhood specifically doesn't let you do that. If you don't have $849 to buy the Tesla share, then you can't buy it. But Cash App, you can let's say you only have 50, that's all you have is $50 to invest. You can invest $50 into Tesla, and they'll give you 0.0 something of a share, but you'll still make money off it. Your $50 can turn into $100, and then you can invest that the money you flipped into Tesla and keep doing it. That's a strategy as well. So I'm actually really glad you asked that question. I got 2 questions. First was Preston, so I'm going to do that.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear, boss.
Okay. My question is what is your advice in regards to investing when, as an investor, a stock that you're watching is kind of being very volatile? One of the stocks in question that I would suggest actually would be was it Amari said Tesla, because it's seen a lot of growth recently, but it's also very quick to drop and lose a lot of value in a short amount of time. So do you have any rules for when deciding to hold on to something versus when it's time to sell?
Yeah, in general. In general, that's a first and foremost, that's a great question. Because I should have actually dove more into when to hold and when to sell. So as a general statement, like I said, there are formulas and stuff, but this is more so for beginners. I believe that you should, I don't want to use the word believe twice, but I believe that you should invest in companies that you believe in. So Tesla is very, very, very volatile, but I believe in their mission and Elon Musk himself too much to ever sell Tesla. So it doesn't matter whether they go down $300 or $3, you shouldn't sell it. What you should do, if you really, really do believe in it, as a rule, is you should actually invest more money. If you invested $50 when it was $849, there is no reason why you shouldn't invest another $50 when it drops down to $550. And if it drops again to $250, you invest $100. Like, if you really, really believe in it. The only other rule, I should say, that I would use is if you really, really see it's dropping too much and you see that there's allegations in the company, then that's when I would completely drop the stock. But because of how the stock market works in general, I wouldn't. Like I said, if you really believe in the stock, then you believe in it. There's another one that I invested in when I was like 19 that I should have believed in, was AMD, which stands for Advanced Micro Devices. They make computer parts and computer chips, processors, and I invested when there was a $9 stock, and it went up to and my $9 had dropped down to $2, but I didn't have a lot of money back then. So, like, the $9 stock dropped down to $2, and instead of me investing more money, I said, oh my gosh, like, I'm losing all this money, so I sold. From there, after it went from $2, the stock is worth about $50 today, if not more. So, yeah, if you really believe in it, when it drops, you need to invest more. That's just the truth. And I think we have time for one more question, so I'll take this one.
Your information has been wonderful, but I'm wondering about dividends. Do you have any stock choices that have really good returns, and give good dividends?
That is a great question. In general, so for those of you that don't know, and I'm sorry that I was remiss to speak about it, I was just running out of time. But in general, dividends are given back for some stocks as an incentive for you to invest in them. So, for example, Microsoft gives dividends. A dividend, as a general statement, is most likely cents on the share. So, if you own Microsoft, they might give you 10 cents as a dividend per share you own. So, if you own this is just a general statement. I don't know what their actual dividend is, but if you own 10 shares, they'll give you 10 cents per share, which is $1. It's some are more or less than that. It all depends on the company. So yes, dividends, like I said, are a great incentive to invest in. A lot of people make money off that, even if the stock itself doesn't have a high return. If you have like a 2% return on a stock, which some people may go, what is my incentive of investing in that and putting in my risk when I could just put my money in a savings account? The incentive would be dividends, and a lot of companies do that if they know that they don't rise exponentially, and they just rise very linear, very gradually, 1% a year, maybe 1.5% a year, 2%. Then they'll give dividends. Which you said, do I have any? Microsoft is a good one that gives dividends. Amazon doesn't give any dividends to my knowledge. I believe Best Buy does. AMD, I believe, gives dividends. Dividends, Walmart gives dividends. Walmart is a really good stock. They're transforming their... I don't want to dive too deep into it, but Walmart's a really good stock right now because they're transitioning from brick and mortar to online to compete with Amazon. They give dividends. So you can actually look that up too if you just Google companies that give the most dividends or the best. Some companies give percentages as dividends, but that's very rare. But that's good as well. So I appreciate all the questions. Those were actually really, really good questions today. And if anyone has any other questions, you can DM me on Instagram or on Twitter or any other social media platform at the Duron Coles. All social media platforms are that. You can watch the other videos that I have on YouTube, also at the Duron Coles. And I hope everyone has a great morning. This was a great show, everybody. Thank you.